Atsuko. Okay, perfect. So we're very excited to have Atsuko Quirk from Cafeteria Culture presenting tonight. I was able to pull a few strings and get her. So why don't we start by introducing ourselves?
Okay. Pablo Garcia. I'm on the Organic Industry and Legislative Committee of the Brooklyn SWAB. I do academic research.
And can everybody hear? We didn't have the microphone next to Pablo. Everybody could hear, all right? Okay. I'm Rhonda Kaiser, and I'm chair of the Brooklyn SWAB. And full disclosure, I also work with Cafeteria Culture.
I'm Sherry Rickle. I am a member and a member of the Outreach Committee.
Same here, Outreach Committee. Mark Hallerman.
Rando coming to the SWAB meeting.
Okay.
What's your name?
What's your
Mary Lynn.
I like that.
Mary Ellen Sullivan, SWAB.
Secretary. Oh, secretary.
I'm Nora McCauley, periodic person who shows up.
Possible future member.
Yeah.
I'm Lacey Tauber, I'm the legislative director for Brooklyn Borough President Reynoso.
Hi, I'm Beth Slepian. I'm vice chair of the SWAB, also on the outreach committee.
Okay.
And people can write their names in the chat.
And thanks. Feel free to write your name in the chat and what brings you here. Should we start really quickly by passing the minutes? Do we have a quorum yet? We can also
Let me
wait
make
until
sure. Hold
after
on, I've
our
got,
speaker.
I've got people waiting. Hold on. Let's see.
4, 5, really, right?
6, 7, 8, 9. Hold on. Hold on. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We do have a
Should we
quorum.
wait until a little longer? Or do you
Yeah, maybe. I think
think okay.
just barely a quorum.
So welcome everyone to the December Brooklyn SWAB General Membership Meeting. Lot has happened since the last meeting, and the world has changed a little bit. We hope not too much, and what we wanted to focus on in getting speakers for the next several months is to bring in speakers who are doing work that helps change policy, that helps keep policy moving in a certain direction that we in a more just sort of direction, and like we're doing, like the good work that's going on here in New York City. So we want to tap into action that we can do, and also keep ourselves connected to positivity and hope. So with that in mind, I thought Atsuko Quirk is the perfect guest to kick that off. So Atsuko has a really impressive bio. She's a documentary filmmaker and environmental advocate, and she's a 21st generation member of the samurai family from northern Japan. So please hold all your questions about that to the end. She's going to share from Cafeteria Culture's recent 2-year EPA-funded project, which reduced cafeteria waste by making cafeterias into climate action hubs with students as leaders. Anything you want to say about that, Atsuko? Well, I want to say welcome, and let me get started by sharing.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. I'm Atsuko, and I'm the executive director of Cafeteria Culture. I'm not sure who are like a first time or who would know Cafeteria Culture. So we are a nonprofit based in New York City, and we have school programs as well as advocacy work, and we do teacher trainings and consulting, such and such. But our focus is to make the school cafeterias, as it says, climate action hubs. Cafeteria culture started as a styrofoam out of schools, and remember those styrofoam still existed back then, and the our beloved former founder and director Debbie Lee Cohen, who's recently passed, she had already started styrofoam out of schools, and then I met her in 2010. And at that time, New York City, like everybody was saying, "Oh, we're never gonna get rid of styrofoam. Go to Baltimore, go to Boston," but we uh, sort of like stayed together to be in the cafeteria, stayed together with DOE to work with them instead of sort of criticizing. And back then, why we have this Empire State Building photo here is that when you stuck the styrofoam trays neatly flat, then it was 8.5 times higher than the Empire State Building for 1 day use of all styrofoam trays from New York City public schools alone. So, and then we started doing the work in the cafeteria, but we, shortly noticed that to really work with students, it is really important for them to know why it is important to get rid of styrofoam, why it is important to reduce waste. And the why part became the sort of core of our work now. The actual cafeteria waste reduction is a part of the whole student, climate action movement. And our programs always, the schools that we go into are, underserved schools. And one of the schools that in the photo has over 50% of students living in temporary housing. And the rest, majority of the rest are coming from public housing. And those students, we work with, they are concerned about climate. They are, want to take action, but they're not well resourced as a school. And schools, that kind of schools have other priorities to meet. So, we are sort of making students to be activists together with us. It's not like we are teaching and they're learning, not only teaching and learning, but we are sort of making change together. So that's sort of our standpoint with, students as a peer or, team, or, and then move the slide. For us, everything has to be student-centered, and students need to discover the next fact, next questions, and then all the changes need to be students' victories. So we sort of, make a path, but always they are leading us in a way to get to whatever the goal that they're going for. So that's sort of our approach. And now we're gonna talk about the interventions. So one of the school programs that we were funded by the EPA for 2-year project to do interventions in the cafeteria at the PS15 in Red Hook, Brooklyn, and one of our longtime partner schools. And there are three separate interventions. One is the plastic-free lunch day, and one is the reusables pilot, and then one is the mindful choice meals. That's a food waste reduction pilot. And first, we're gonna talk about plastic-free lunch day. Plastic-free lunch day started as a from our students in the program, and as one school at PS15, and see if we can have one day without all plastic packaging in the cafeteria. And they asked to ask the principal, ask the school food, and then made it happen. They found that they reduced 558 items on that day. And then they did the math of how about 1,800 schools all do that? Then it turned out to be over 1 million plastic items per day that could be eliminated. So one of the, and then that's in the movie Microplastic Madness. That's our movie. And one of the movie screenings, we had a Q&A afterwards, and one of the school food directors was there with some of the students as a panel. And actually one of the students asked him, why don't we do plastic-free lunch day all of New York City? And the food director, Stephen O'Brien, who is recently retired, but he said, maybe in 5 years. And like students are, we don't have 5 years to get there, and kind of like grilled him at the stage. Then, he actually started planning, and well, let's make it happen. And it was 2019, and the COVID slowed down, but the first citywide, New York citywide plastic-free lunch day happened in 2022, May 2022, and that is 750 elementary schools with a kitchen, with no packaging, plastic packaging served, and utensils and water cups will be by request only, and the menu became a finger food so that not many students need utensils to begin with. So that's the plastic-free lunch day, the first one. And then afterwards, Stephen O'Brien and then back then Debbie Lee Cohen both presented to the Urban School Food Alliance. That's the 18 large urban school district, sort of like alliance to co-purchase trays or sometimes chicken, or to bring the price down to use the purchase power. And they presented to the alliance, and then they were very excited, and they wanted to have a plastic-free lunch day USA, and that happened on the same year, November the same year, as a first time as a national plastic-free lunch day. You can forward the slide. These are some of the school districts that has been participating, like Dallas and Baltimore, San Diego, and two on the bottom are from school districts in Long Island. We want to expand to more schools or school districts in New York State. But it's been over 3,000 schools participated from 36 states. So, we're so happy that the way it's expanding, but we would like to do more. So you can next slide, yeah. And then also, this is one of our messages that we feel that's important, that especially the type of schools that we go in, their home lunch is basically, chips and Oreos and, that kind of store-bought food. So instead of, don't bring those, or like shaming whatever the the food that they're bringing, we encouraged students to participate in school lunch. So our message is eat school lunch to go plastic free. And sometimes even those chips and Oreos, for some families, it is the only thing that parents can, bring the kids to a bodega and give your kid $1 and you can buy anything. And that showed some, value to the child, right? So that we can't really diss it in a way, so that we encouraged students to participate in school lunch to go plastic free. And these are some of the plastic items that would be eliminated at Plastic Free Lunch Day, but we are working to actually do more, increase the frequency of Plastic Free Lunch Day, and then more items to be eliminated every day. Some of the like sandwiches doesn't have to be wrapped. So those are what we're working on with our students. And the Plastic Free Lunch Day, this is the data. It's been 20 Plastic Free Lunch Days to date. Now, New York City has Plastic Free Lunch Day in every 3 weeks. And it has been over 15 million plastic items have been eliminated. And I mentioned there have been 5 nationwide Plastic Free Lunch Days to date that accumulated over 3,000 schools from 36 states participated. Okay, so that was Plastic Free Lunch Day, and yeah, we are really working hard to get rid of the rest of the single-use plastics in the cafeteria. By the way, this EPA funding allowed us to do a really extensive waste audits, and from our baseline audits for plastic, there were 5.7 plastic items per child per plate. So that was the average. And Plastic Free Lunch Day can eliminate like 99% of plastic items. So it's like, why don't we just do it every day? That's sort of our goal to get there. Okay, now food waste reduction, we call it mindful choice meals. And then from our waste audit, we found out that 45% of the food waste was coming from untouched food waste, means kids didn't even have a bite. You can see the whole apples or whole burgers and sandwiches and unopened muffins. And so we thought it is from adults overplating at the service line. And then it's all coming from the love, like they want to make sure kids have enough food, and they feel like more choices on the plate would make them eat more. But what we found out was opposite, and this overplating, we thought this 45% of the food waste was untouched. So maybe we could do something at the service line not to overplate, right? Now, what we worked on is there is a rule from USDA called offer versus serve. And students has to be offered 5 items, 5 food items, but they only need to take 3 items out of 5 and one of them has to be a fruit or vegetable. That's the only requirement. Milk is not required. Protein is not required even. If the child gets a milk and fruit and vegetable, that's a complete meal, reimbursable meal that we call. And sometimes state will send inspector, random inspector, to check if the food line, service line is compliant for this USDA rule. So they are sort of, adults are overcompensating that they don't want to be sort of actually violating the rule, so that they're overcompensating. And then also we found out that the adults who are assisting at the service line, not necessarily kitchen staff, but some school staff are assisting for lower grades usually. And they don't know the exact rule. Some things that milk is required, some, things actually the protein is required, so that's why sort of like just put it all on the plate will be just like they're covered, right? So that's what was happening, and that was contributing to that 45% of the food waste. And what we came up with the students was to actually do the education about this offer versus serve rule, school-wide, students and adults. And also, everybody's concern was to slow down the line if students are asking what they want. Every student was asking what they want at the service line. So we wanted students to know the menu, know the choices beforehand. So we did the menu communication with the classroom teachers, and then also provided some cutouts and practice sort of, resources for teachers to do that, like a choice practice in the classroom, especially for lower grades. And then we did ask the kitchen staff only pre-plate one item and ask students what they want. So that was the change. The number 4 was menu board before the serving line, that students will know what will be offered at the service line, so they can make up their mind. So those are the changes that we made, and this offer versus serve rule exists, and then just being compliant. We don't have to change any rules, and just being compliant and just do the education, and students were able to choose what they want. This is what the kids say. I felt like I was in a restaurant because their choice was really honored, right? Against advance the slides. So this is the data that on Mindful Choice Meals Day, untouched food waste was reduced by 65%. These are all per plate per student number. Overall food waste was reduced by 50%. And then students consumed 46% more food on Mindful Choice Meals Day. This was the big sort of unexpected outcome. We wanted to measure the food consumption, because if food waste was reduced, then if the consumption has also been reduced, then it's not quite a success, right? So we wanted to make sure students are eating. So that's why we came up with the method of waste audit, that we can measure the amount of consumption. And then this is the lower grades had even better or more drastic reduction and increase. So that kindergarten, first and second grades combined, saw an 82% reduction in untouched food waste and 83% increase in food consumption per student. From a waste audit, actually the kindergarten students were served more food than fifth graders from the baseline audit. So of course, this is gonna make a big difference. But we're so glad that even lower grade students were even eating more food than the baseline audit. And there are we put these 4 other positive outcomes. Increased school lunch participation because of mindful choice meals day and plastic free lunch day. Our students did a sort of outreach in a school. Let's say mindful choice meals day, they had like today's choices are, or like let's make a mindful choice today, so that the morning announcements and classroom communication that that increased school lunch participation, which is a great thing. As I mentioned, their home lunches are not exactly nutritious, right? So that school lunch is really a better meal for a lot of the students. And school lunch, they have a beautiful salad bar and all that. So the increase the participation was a big deal too. And right, so this is the one that I mentioned, right? That we don't want to really shame that what they're bringing, but we want more students to actually eat school lunch, to have more nutritious food. Okay, mindful choice meals. We are trying to do this program in different school, different cafeteria settings right now, and to make a toolkit more refined and more sort of universal to other schools to do it on their own. And we have been finding similar results in different schools. So and we're still doing waste audits and finding out what works and what would be improved, what should be improved. Plastic free lunch day, we do have extensive toolkit on our website, and it's been really integrated into New York City public schools practices and Office of Energy and Sustainability from New York City public schools. They have been promoting a lot of the plastic free lunch day, as well as we co-created a new toolkit for schools to do easier version of waste audits in the cafeteria. What students say. This is Deborah from she was in 6th grade when she said that. She's in 7th grade, but she's from PS 188, one of the high shelter student population school. And I want to work in the government to make the environment better for the community. This was after we brought Lieutenant Governor Delgado and Harvey Epstein and Senator Kavanaugh. Then they presented, what they are working on, and they heard from Lieutenant Governor Delgado that he was a hip hop singer and a basketball player, and then they were like they felt like they can do some the similar work. And then the lower photo is a 5th grade from PS 34 that's also in a heart of the public housing, right next to, like, right across the street from Coned 14th Street Coned plant. And this was after she presented at the rally for plastic bag ban. That was a little while ago, but I felt like I can make a real big difference. So this is how, cafeteria culture kind of works. And hopefully we could sort of, right now, this school year, we got the funding from city council to do compost education, but we are combining with the food waste reduction in the cafeteria, and then trying to work with the composting locally. So that's this year's sort of mission. And if there's any questions, I can answer.
We can, I don't know, let's look it up. Let Dylan go.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Dylan.
Thank you.
Do you want me just to start asking? Here.
We don't have anything to check.
Yeah, so anybody can write any questions in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand, feel free to ask it. Matt, we just have a comment from Maggie who says, really, a model program should be presented at professional conferences like NICE R3 to get adopted by more jurisdictions. That's a great idea.
Yeah, we've been doing some presentations. I'm presenting on Monday to New York State teachers and school districts. Nina has a hand up.
Yeah, go ahead, Nina. Nina, if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question, feel free. Okay.
I have a question too, but I don't see where I raised my hand.
That's okay, Sharon. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Hi, Atsuko.
Yeah.
Question: Did you think of, or did you ever do anything with figuring out how much retention the kids had year to year about what they needed to do to properly dispose of the things on their trays? I feel, because I worked with you, I feel like a lot of them caught on to it and held it from year to year.
Sorry,
I
what
mean,
was
Can I answer that too?
yeah.
Okay, I feel like in terms of proper sorting, is that what you mean, Sharon?
Yes.
So
okay.
What we maintain is that it's very complicated to sort in the cafeteria. Sometimes pieces of plastic packaging have like 3 different places that it could go in, and they've got 20 minutes to eat, and they have to clean up quickly. So we believe that it should be simplified. And but in terms of good sorting, it really depends on the adult who's in there, who's in the cafeteria encouraging.
Okay.
We created our first toolkit was Sort to Save with Debbie Lee. That was had a little chant, and it helped students remember where everything goes. But my God, it's very complicated, and adults don't even really know how to do it. I mean, if you can get adults, students to stand there and mentor one another, but then that program kind of falls apart after a while. It's just needs to be simplified. That's our point in reducing plastic at this point.
And I guess as a follow-up to that, did you hear back from any of the parents that the kids came home and taught them how to do it?
Oh, always.
Yeah.
Always. When we hear from parents, it's just like, I can't throw anything away anymore without my child using me.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then there was a question here. Is Nina ready?
Yeah, I can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The unmute on this is different in your system that I'm used to. Yeah, I think my question was actually pretty similar to another one. I'm just shocked at this, when you talked about the volume of these styrofoam trays being stacked up. And I remember as a kid, we seemed to figure out how to take our plates to like a basin and our utensils and put it all in, and it all got washed, and we put it on a tray and we went through the lunch line. I was like, when did it become so difficult to do this?
So that, yeah, people ask us all the time that New York City also, and then a lot of other school districts used to have reusable plates and utensils before. And then back in like 80s, because of the whole world was shifting to single-use plastics, and it was actually parents who wanted single-use plastics instead of reusable. So that felt like newer, safer, cleaner, whatever the propaganda that the industry was putting out. Then, so that was the sort of like reflecting what was going on in the world to the cafeteria. And also from school food directors were saying that back then dishwashers were kind of a headache because it wasn't the energy saver. It breaks down and you need a maintenance. And while it's going on, you do need some kind of replacement to serve. Um, and then rodents and like all kinds of problems. And it was a little bit of a headache. And then around that time, of course the styrofoam companies came and like, oh, this is cheaper and cleaner, whatever. So then they switched to styrofoam. Yeah, and that lasted like 20 years. Yeah.
And in fact, when we're presenting to adults, we also presented recently to the New York State School Environmental Health Conference. It was the first one. A bunch of environmental health professionals there. And we're working on really making it, making sure that this isn't performative. This data is really impressive. It's exciting. We do really exciting work. But it's not just like, look at us. We're creating toolkits so that schools can actually carry this out on their own if they're extra motivated. But also we met with USDA and told them about the mindful choice meals, because it's a great, offering 5 kinds of food and students only have to take 3 is great because it's giving them choice. And it's aimed at giving students choice and having them not waste food so that they can actually and enjoy what they want, but it's not being carried out. So they're interested in our, way to sort of institutionalize their really great rule. We're working on ways to make it more accessible. Go ahead, Atsuko.
Yeah, there's a question. How did you measure the increase in consumption? We we do weigh every single plate before and after students eat. So, and then photograph, and it's a lot of manpower needed, but just we wanted to make sure that we can measure the consumption.
Questions from
Yeah, does anybody here have questions?
Me too.
Oh, go ahead. Beth has a question.
Hi, Atsuko. I have a question. You mentioned one of your initiatives is the reusables pilot. Speaking of reusables, and I'd love to just hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the reusables pilot was a just forks and then water cups. There are like a water jet in the cafeteria, and then they were using plastic cups. So we tried to use stainless steel cups and then and then stainless steel forks and spoons. And then of course, it actually also increased the consumption, food consumption. And then combining with plastic free lunch day, it is almost zero single-use plastics. But there are some barriers to operate that we used a outside dishwashing service because a lot of schools don't have dishwashers. When the change happened in the 80s, they all ditched the um, dishwashers, and then to actually install a dishwasher in a school, they have to start with the plumbing and all that, so that the school food doesn't want to talk about reusables and dishwashers right now. It could change, but so we wanted to try sort of like a feasibility of outside dishwashing service. And it has some pros and cons that we learned, that dishwashing service has their own sort of schedule to, once a week pick up from places to wash, right? Then the DOE demanded to do like every day because they didn't want to store the dirties in the kitchen. There are some sort of safety concerns, food safety concerns that we had to start with. And we decreased the frequency of delivery and pickup to like twice a week. That was sort of the final, but still, schools don't open at night, so that the pickup needs to happen while the kitchen workers are there, means they're gonna be in traffic, and like all those things need to be sort of worked out. So there, yeah. But we want to do it in a different setting too.
Mhm.
And Maggie has a hand.
Yeah, go ahead, Maggie.
Uh, well, I was in the middle of writing a second comment, but so to repeat the first, I think, the parents could actually spur some change here. You were saying it was the parents that caused the single use products to explode. And well, if they understood the degree to which their children are getting poisoned with plastic, maybe they would become a very vocal force and could spread from there.
Mhm.
I would think.
That's
In addition,
that's how
yeah,
we started. Debbie Lee started cafeteria culture because she found out as a parent that she didn't know that her child was being served food on styrofoam. So just to add into what you're saying.
right. But I'm talking about poisoning of the children, as opposed to being bad for the environment in other ways,
So
because
that's actually what got rid of styrofoam in the end because it's toxic.
yeah. So the other comment I was just about to finish was that there are more studies all the time because there's so few studies, and I don't know that there are any that have shown nothing. I think every study I see just, says, well, yeah, now it's in the food, now it's in the water, now it's in here, now it's in there. And one studied everything. I mean, I was bringing up a point just yesterday, I think, that, Citarella and Whole Foods and places like that, they sell ready-made stuff in the black plastic containers, And I'm sure it's hot when it's put into the containers, may even be acidic. You know, yeah, I've stopped buying that, but most people just don't know, and there haven't been enough studies to underline it. This has to be broadcast from the hilltops. The press needs to know.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's what motivates us. Sharon asks, have the food choices by the students themselves changed the menus being offered? We haven't done a long enough, maybe, time of doing mindful choice meals, but we imagine that it will. Once the food waste, I'm sorry, Atsuko, I just stepped in. Once the food
No,
waste
go ahead.
is happening behind the serving line, of course, kitchen staff doesn't have time to go out and look what's going into the brown bins, at the end of their thing. They just have to clean up. But if they see that they always have leftover oranges if they're not cut, they might go, maybe if we cut the oranges, they'll eat them more. So it will automatically, we believe it will inform their choices, their procurement choices. Do they eat? Well, for instance, Atsuko, do you want to say about the plastic packaging? The number of plastic packaging items on a tray?
On a tray, I mean, the average that we measured was 5.7. Yeah, so that should be, it's been better for the kitchen serving. We see less, but some schools have different sort of choices for some reason than others. So there are some schools sort of offer more packaged items, or so we will know better after this school year for uh, getting more waste audits
Yeah.
done. Yeah.
I-
And also Sharon says, how much
Yeah.
money was saved in terms of reduction of plastics and food waste? We do have a plastic, like a one plastic-free lunch day can save about $8,000 per 100,000 meals served by not using by not wrapping every sandwich or other sort of plastic reduction measures are helping the cost too. We do not have the food waste cost data, which could be interesting to collect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. It's kind of a fun question. Since I haven't been in school in a long time, what are the typical choices the kids have? Food or lunch?
Well, they have a 3-week menu cycle. Do you want to say anything about? He's added.
I mean, it's the mozzarella sticks, and then right now, Fridays plant-powered Fridays and all plant-based meals on Fridays, and others are still burgers or turkey burgers or veggie burgers. More likely, it is definitely less beef. There are beef patties uh and such, but less beef and plant-powered Fridays are all veggies. It's not vegan. Grilled cheese sandwiches are offered still, but it's been a little change for the last couple of years, and now they are offering new items more often for this school year with the wellness in the schools program that they are training school and kitchen chefs to actually do a little more towards scratch cooking.
And also what we feel like our data sort of highlighted was that when students were given the choice, they actually consumed more food, which really says that what we know from looking closely at school food for all of the years that we've been doing this is that they're doing a really great job. School food is doing a great job of getting local food, locally sourced food, organic as much as possible. And then they're trying to get stuff that's appetizing and, appealing and nutritious for students. And you can see from the menus and from our waste audits that that's exactly the case. And when they're given the choice and they have the choice, they actually do eat more food. So it's not about scarcity or austerity, it's about agency. It's about students being empowered to have make their own choices within the range.
Would be good to know how much plastic of different types are fed to each student on the average. Yeah, different types. Usually we see the packaged items are in soft plastic. That, let's say, sliced apples or sliced carrots, also muffins, or and then the hard plastic is the hummus cups or fruit cups, yogurt in a breakfast. Yeah, a lot of those.
Yeah.
And the utensils themselves are compostable, but wrapped in regular plastic that New York City is trying to be just utensils by themselves, that without the wrappers. It is the co-purchasing with 18 other school districts, so that even New York City wants to do without wrapping, but some other school districts wants them wrapped. So those are the sort of battle that they're still doing, but it is coming without the plastic.
Yeah. Yeah. So Maggie was mentioning.
Talking about plastics in the food.
Yeah, we haven't done that kind of data collection.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Maybe I missed it, but is there a certain number or percentage of schools that do have a dishwasher and that, no, so none of them?
There may be 2 or something. On Governor's Island.
They're not operable.
Right, they're not operable, but there's
There's
two
Yeah.
dishwashers. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Out of 1,800.
Yeah. 1,800 total schools. Yeah. Anything else? Anybody else? Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Atsuko, so much for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks a lot. So you're welcome to stay, or you are also welcome to drop off. I know you're a busy person. Thank you. Okay. So maybe we could actually vote on the minutes. Yeah.
Sure, we have a form.
Yeah. Okay. So does anybody want to propose that should we do each separate
Yes.
vote? Okay. October minutes. Does anybody want to propose to move that we vote to approve the October minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes.
Okay. We have does anybody second the motion?
I second.
Okay, great. Second. All those in favor of approving the October minutes?
Keep your hands up. 11, 12. Okay. Yes, we're good. We have enough votes.
Okay, great. Okay, now does anybody move to approve the November meeting minutes?
I move to approve November meeting.
Okay,
And I second that.
great. All right, so all those in favor, I didn't say nay and abstain, but we didn't need it, did we? I'm sorry. All those in favor, I'll say nay and abstain this time. Okay, all those opposed to approving the November or the October meeting? Nobody's opposed. And-
Abstain.
Anybody abstain from
November.
voting on November meeting minutes?
I didn't get a chance to read it.
Okay,
Abstention.
Pablo abstains, one abstention.
Any abstentions from October? Do you want
Any
to start?
any abstentions from October meeting minutes? Any nays from the October meeting minutes?
2 abstentions from Vandra. I was
Okay.
not there for the whole meeting, so I'm abstaining.
Okay, great. Thank you. For October or both?
Both.
Okay. All right, thank you. Well, that's perfect. Thank you. Accomplishments. So now, Lacey, can we have an update from the VP's office?
Hi, everybody. I will be really quick. I don't think we have a lot going on in terms of waste right now. We did submit testimony to the sanitation hearing that was a couple weeks ago on containerization of refuse and organics. I will say mostly what we said was, diversion is important, and also read Claire's report from the Center for Zero Waste Design for a guideline to how to do containerization well. So we submitted that written. It's there for the record if anyone wants to check it out. In terms of what I'm hearing, I'm not sure exactly what you mean, but there were a number of bills heard that day at that hearing, a number of bills proposed by the council that would do various things, from requiring different types of buildings to do certain things to requiring the city to pay for, reimburse people for buying the bins. Lots of ideas on the table. So if you're interested in what's going on with containerization, you can check out the recording of that hearing. It's a lot of good discussion about all of those ideas. Thank you to everyone who sent comments on the organics report. Really appreciate those who took the time to read it and send us their thoughts. I will let Rhonda and Matt talk about next steps, but I just wanted to say, it's not, it takes time to read a report, and I just appreciate everyone who spent that time and sent us their input. There's the only thing going on right now for me with sanitation is that there's some new rules being proposed related to commercial waste zones. We, of course, are always paying attention to everything going on with that. However, we did not get our monthly update from sanitation because our meeting was scheduled at exactly the same time that Commissioner Tisch was transitioning to the NYPD. So I don't have any news on that front other than, we have a new acting sanitation commissioner, Javier Lohan. And, he's been at sanitation, I think, for 25 years. We haven't had the chance to meet with him yet, but look forward to kind of hearing what he's thinking about all of these things that we have our eyes on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. All right, so we'll move on. Coalition updates, Save Our Compost.
We can do Save Our Compost. We just had one meeting in November. We're moving to monthly meetings until the funding budget stuff starts to ramp up again. The last meeting, we talked a little bit more about, and what we're planning for is a social media post, I think, on some information about 130A, which is Gail Brewer's bill, right? Those that know it better than I. The parks, yeah, because it passed, right? And I do not know good background on it, so if anyone else does, and Matt behind me, feel free to summarize if you have the info. But it's with composting in parks and putting certain requirements over time.
Parks.
It's basically requiring the city to establish composting facilities in parks, and I don't remember exactly, but it's a certain amount of space over a certain amount of time and in a certain geographical distribution. I'm sorry, I would have brought notes.
That's it's just for it's not for food waste. It's for parks, what's produced in parks in terms of full foliage, right? That's my understanding.
That was my understanding.
Like yard waste.
Yeah,
No, outside.
yeah.
So there's gonna be a post about that. That's kind of the summary, the quick summary at the moment, because October was so busy and everyone's holidays and everything is so busy right now that it's been a little bit of a blur.
Yeah.
But I think we had a very short meeting, so.
Is there ever any discussion about composting food and parks? I know they haven't in Tribeca, they haven't.
We had a speaker who was set to come here, but then at the last minute couldn't come. Yeah, exactly. That's the speaker was from that.
But I think, isn't there one in Manhattan? There's a park in Manhattan.
That's the one.
Also Battery Park City,
Yeah.
they came and
Yeah.
spoke to the,
Yeah, they're using invisible systems, so that's a very high temperature.
Hillside just kind of looks like
I don't, that's not.
Indefinitely.
For regular compost plant.
for now.
So that's as much as we talked about.
And after that, I think they put it on the flower gardens on the west highway.
Yeah, I don't know, but
I mean, dog food per se is not great. It's just.
okay, great. Reusable NYC. What will you do?
Yeah, I attended this month, or I guess that was last month. And the main discussion was around the hearing, the DEP hearing, or the Environmental Planning Committee hearing on Intro 900, which is the bill that would require the city to install 500 new drinking water fountains. And we did submit testimony in support of that. Some of the other folks who attended that meeting, the Reusable NYC meeting, also submitted testimony. There was one good suggestion, which is a recommendation to winterize the pipes so that water would be available year round. And so that bill only has 15 co-sponsors. So, if you're in a district where your council member isn't sponsoring, consider giving them a call. And we also discussed the Choose to Reuse bill, which they still haven't found somebody to pick that back up, but that's the bill to require reusable eating utensils and containers at food service establishments. And the next meeting's tomorrow. So.
Oh, tomorrow, okay. Great. Okay, so executive committee, we approved the minutes, and I talked a little bit about what's to shape the coming speakers. Will be about putting forth good policy and how that can keep moving forward. Next month, we have confirmed Steph Fox from the comptroller's office, who will come and speak about the climate dashboard. Legislative committee, Uli again.
Yeah, so last month we were pretty busy. We met a couple times to prepare comments for the sanitation committee hearing, which happened on November 20th. And that covered many intros, as Lacey mentioned, and we submitted comment on quite a few of them. So covering like penalties for storing waste in a satisfactory manner, compost at CUNY SUNY, requiring DSNY to collect organics from community gardens, clarifying definition of organics, organic waste recycling at city agencies, and a provision for sufficient receptacles for storage of solid waste. We didn't, and you all have read this and voted on it as well, but I just wanted to say, like, some of our testimony was in support, some of it was in support with modifications, and some of it we just didn't agree with. And I guess our focus was really on, like, pointing out that they should really enforce waste diversion and not aesthetics, making sure compost programs are true compost programs, prioritizing local compost, making sure we're creating a culture of composting when rolling out new ideas instead of just rolling things out and not actually planning for people using it. And then, sorry, the lights turned out. I'm at my office. And then prioritizing compost over diversion and ensuring that the Broadband program is working before like coming up with new ideas to containerize waste. So that's kind of summarizes like the focus of where our comments were. Our next meeting is this Thursday at 5 p.m. We'll be discussing a lovely report that Maggie put together for the most, or I guess Maggie and others put together, focusing on a New York City solid waste management plan. So if you do plan on attending and you haven't, or you weren't at the last one, please reach out to me so I can send you a link to that report so you can read it beforehand and prepare any feedback you have beforehand. I'll put my email in the chat, and I'll send an email out letting everyone know when that meeting is right after this meeting. That's it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, outreach.
Should I do that?
Yeah.
Okay, so outreach is working on 3 different projects, more or less. We're still putting together a presentation for the community boards to advocate for a little bit more involvement in organic separation. We're also trying to connect with school groups. Miriam is working with people who want to work within the schools to do a lot of the same things that cafeteria culture is doing, working on recycling and organic separation, those projects. We've got, of course, Lee is still keeping our social media platform up to date, posting things there. And we also got a great idea at our last meeting to try to work more with city council members. And so we've started putting a letter together for city council members and a possible survey to try to get a feel for how what they think of curbside composting, what they think of organic separation, all in a way to advocate for more residential involvement in these programs. That's our big push. That's the overlying thing. On our next meeting, we're switching to Mondays for now. We're going to try the 3rd Monday of every month. So that means 2 weeks from today, on the 16th, 6:30. And you could email me, but you probably don't know my email address. So email
I'll put it in the chat, Mark.
Sure, she'll put it in the chat. And let me know if you want to come. The more the merrier. It'll be a pre-holiday kind of
Thank you.
thing. Sure.
I will add one other thing we did. In supporting Lee doing social media, we also did some little quick revisions on the website and started putting our very well-crafted, I think, testimonies, the public testimonies, so that they have a place to live on the website. I think right now it's under resources, right?
Yes.
That's where we left it at the moment.
Resource.
But that way we can also amplify that we submitted that and point to a place to go. So people can read it. So, yep. Doing some little updates.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for doing that too. That's great. Okay, Organics Industry Committee? Is that Fondra
Or Allison? I saw Allison on
Allison,
here.
are you still here?
Yeah, I don't have a lot. You mentioned composting and pots, right? We have our next organics committee meeting on Monday. I'm anxiously awaiting to see the New York City open data on the rollout in Manhattan. October numbers were not really posted clearly unless they were clear, and if so, were very bad. So November's results maybe will be posted unless anyone here has heard anything about election. The only other thing is we have the New York State food donation law. I guess it's gotten to the governor, so we may have gotten a couple notifications today that we can all put some heat on the governor. I think she has 10 days to sign it. See if I find a couple of links in the chat and maybe fill out one of those automatic forms. And I guess the only other thing that I know will come up maybe in the next meeting this week is that the smart bit moved from it's Wagner houses. So we're in the process of trying to figure out why they were removed. But NYCHA doesn't have curbside service, so that's kind of fair. So we'd like to get to the bottom of that, so.
Wait, why Wagner was removed from what?
Smart pens were removed.
Smart pens.
Well, I mean, they do have a processing facility right on site at Wagner.
Yep.
I mean, so I don't know, maybe Allison, they do have a processing site right on, they have a processing facility right on site at Wagner Houses.
Right, I don't know. I may even be wrong that it's Wagner. Matt might know. I just know they were.
Yeah, so 60% of the bins that were removed from NYCHA campuses or around NYCHA campuses were campuses that had some kind of organics program.
Oh.
Or were near an organics program, so that's part of it, right?
Uh-huh.
And the other is probably lack of use and abuse, right? So those are the ones that we have to look at. And so for those, so first of all, the ones that are removed where there's organics programs, that tells us there's an appetite for on-site organics processing. And for the areas where there's been abuse or underuse, we should work with the various campuses to adopt a bin and figure out why folks aren't using it and fix that problem. Instead of just asking blatant, just like put everything back, because that's not going to help us. Right? So that's our next phase, which we'll be discussing Thursday at 5 o'clock before the legislative convention.
Is that the NYCHA?
That's our NYCHA meeting.
Okay.
It's an all SWAB NYCHA meeting.
I love it when committees intersect like that. It's what should be, I think. Okay. All right. Anything else? Any other comments? Thank you for that report, Allison. And thanks for elucidating.
I don't understand what you mean by brown bins were removed.
Brown bins, the smart bins, the
the
smart bins that are activated by an app, and then you put them through it. So those are not on campus, they're around the campuses.
Right.
And so campuses where there's on-site organics availability, processing availability, like what we see Domingo doing at Wagner and a few other campuses, they've taken the bins away, the smart bins away, because there's on-site processing. In some campuses, they're not being used, or they're being, people are putting things in there that don't belong in there, or near there. And so those are the ones we should focus on.
Great. Okay. Thanks. Events committee. Oh, wait. Kendall said he couldn't hear Matt. Did everybody else not be able to hear Matt? Do you just want to summarize, Matt, quickly what you said?
Come to the mic.
Yeah, if you can. I don't know if this is gonna reach.
Don't move the mic.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
About 60% of the bins that were taken away from around NYCHA campuses, can Kendall hear now?
Yeah.
These are campuses that have on-site organics processing. And then the other 40% do not have on-site processing or access to that. And so those are the ones that have been either underused or people are not using appropriately. And those are the ones that we need to focus on. Just asking for them to be put back is counterproductive. We have to figure out a way to get usage of those bins up and back, right? So
Now, do we know where they moved them to?
not yet. They may have retired them, I don't know. They're expensive.
Yeah. Thank you. Maybe you should move your chair up and join us.
I'm gonna do this next week, so I don't need to.
I know. Okay, events committee? Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Liz.
Hi. There's no events update. Apologies. Just happy holidays, everyone, and I'll have something in the new year.
Okay, thank you. Okay, NYCHA committee.
There's going to be a meeting on this Thursday, December 5th at 5:30. It's a virtual meeting. And mainly at the last meeting, we discussed events at 3 NYCHA campuses where there will be some kind of waste audit, but mainly an educational sessions, educate people about how to recycle. And that will be a volunteer opportunity for the Brooklyn SWAB members. So that's the main thing I have to report right now.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we come to announcements, open floor, and discussion, and I wanted to just kick that off by saying that the legislative committee has been talking about discussing, coming up with priorities, legislative priorities, and so in so doing, I went back over the last 2 years or year and a half worth of testimonies and policy positions that we've written over the years, and this is just a sampling of them. In addition, bringing together New York State and New York City policy, the CLCPA, or the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, as well as New York City's Zero Waste Plan. I put the 0 by 30 logo in there to remember that still is a thing, and should always be mentioned, at least as we move forward, as an articulated goal. And as speaking of articulated goals, that's all of these sort of testimonies and pieces of writing that are going on the website. Thank you, Sherry. In addition, our recent SWAB speakers really have brought us to the place of the policy paper that we had some comments on. Thank you again. About Intro 696. That was a really important, it feels like somewhat of a culmination of this sort of leg of our work and our thinking about composting, about food waste diversion, and that's sort of what brought us to this place. Just like one thing that we did not mention that Atsuko didn't mention is that New York City Schools now has a food waste, a food, what do you call it? A share table and a food donation program that is completely sanctioned by the schools. And that is because in 2015, I think, or 2018, there was a food waste diversion law that New York City Council passed. This law forced the hand. It was for all city agencies to come up with a plan to deal with their food waste and to prevent it. So that forced them to accept the share table, which had been going on sort of unofficially for quite some time, and to sanction it, and also to accept that people could donate food that was left over after having been served. There are specific rules around it, and this law was very important in pushing forward good policy and good practice in reducing food waste in general. And in the same way, Intro 696 could be a great way to push forward composting as a solution for diverting our food waste. And as a first sort of pass at the law, at writing a position paper on the law, this is one great reason. We certainly wrote in June of 2023 the statement about co-digestion as the primary solution for processing our food waste. The SWABs put out a statement about that, and all SWABs did. And probably the only people who know about that are the people in this room. Maybe all the other people who voted on it don't even remember that paper. But this policy paper on Intro 696 was a great way to bring this discussion from out of back rooms and into the public, where there can be public input, where we can talk about it in the context of public health and environmental justice, and not in terms of what business decisions are best for whatever company we're contracting with. So certainly the two can coexist, but they cannot coexist if the discussions are not public. And now the discussion is public. It's in the public. We have public input, and people are making comments on the paper. So, yes.
Well, thank you for putting that link in. I did print out the zero waste plan, and they do have, they mentioned the commercial diversion focus on organics. Does that mean that we now have, say, in commercial?
Great. This came up in the last, I feel like this came up in the legislative committee meeting, didn't it, Matt? About commercial.
Well, the DSNY can charge for a certain.
But can everybody hear Matt? I just
Yeah,
want
it's hard for me to speak for him.
I know, just come.
I don't even know, but I don't even, what was the question?
The question was about in the DSNY zero waste plan, they talk about commercial organics diversion.
Yeah,
Right.
well, there's rules around commercial diversion that the DSNY put out, right? So you have to be a certain size, certain square feet, blah, blah, blah. You have to divert organics, right?
Right.
But then there's the request that the DSNY had to charge for commercial pickup potentially, right? That we testified on.
I know the commissioner has been multiple times recently when previous commissioner was at the council. She mentioned that she really wanted to see the council pass a bill to mandate further organics, to increase the mandate for more businesses to have to sort of separate organics. I think they have the legislation drafted. she keeps holding it up and saying, "Can you do this?"
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why they haven't moved it yet. Maybe they're working on it, but I think that is a goal that they've expressed for sure.
I think that the concern was legal challenges. So I don't know if they've overcome those fears yet.
Also, some commercial waste zones like intended to address some of that, but
yes,
has it been watered down too much to make that actually happen?
Well, so one of the things that, oh gosh, how do I?
Sorry.
Sorry, I'm just like, how do I say this quickly? One of the things that the sanitation considered in the RFP for commercial waste zones was a zero waste plan from every business that applied. We haven't seen those; they haven't made them public, so it's very hard for us to say, how substantive they are. And they were one of only of 14 different things that sanitation was considering in the RFP. We were not able in the legislation to dictate. You can't be that specific. You can't dictate the weighting of different things in an RFP. So a lot of it was left to sanitation to decide how to do that. The commissioner made the choice to increase price to 40% of the calculation in terms of who was awarded the contracts, and the other 13 things were the rest. So, it's it kind of remains to be seen exactly how it will go. However, just this morning, I saw there's a new rule that sanitation is proposing for its work within the zones. I think they're learning as they go from this pilot in Queens, and so what will happen at the end of the sort of pilot phase, or
they don't want to call it a pilot.
The beginning of the implementation phase. It's like 3 phases. Okay, outreach, signing up the contracts, and when they're done with having the businesses sign the contracts, then sanitation can start assigning the carters to businesses that have not yet signed contracts. What the rule will allow sanitation to or allow these businesses to do contracts for refuse pickup on more than 2 or 3 days, but it doesn't say anything, as far as I could tell, quick read, about extra recycling or organics collection. So sounds like something that we probably want to see them add, just not to say that they have to do it, but they have the option to do it if the business is bigger and needs more pickup of all the things, trash and otherwise. So that's something we're looking at. Yes. Sorry, long answer. Thanks, Stacey. Yeah.
Now, in some other research, I found out that there's a New York State methane reduction plan, which I never heard of.
Where did you find that?
I don't know much
In
about
the link?
No, that was research I'm doing on leaking methane in pipes.
Nice. Maybe the CLCPA said something about it. I know that Bob Howarth is a methane maven.
We're paying for $70 million a year
Of
leaking methane.
Not to mention the health effects.
Well, nothing to do with climate, just say that that's what's leaking.
But I mean, anybody who lives near that certainly isn't.
Well, can't be good.
Yeah.
You spoke out.
Yeah.
There's certain limits that are allowed, and they'll only answer to a grade A, first grade leak, which is sexually hazardous to the surrounding environment. Otherwise, they don't have to answer. And before it was the utilities, if you call 311, they would call the utilities, not anymore. Now you send the fire department.
Oh, right.
Which is, I mean, it's safer and it's good, but that's an awful lot of resources that are used.
Yeah, and they're not as sensitive because I've called, our house has had leaks a couple of times and we've called the fire department and there's a lot of flare and, a lot of flash and excitingness, but when the gas company comes, it's very precise and they're specific.
Well, it might
They're
also,
liable for it.
It also might be because they can log that as a call, so each time the fire department, they can show, look how active we are.
Oh, right, that's true. Right. Just to go back, that is local law 57 of 2021. That is the food waste prevention plan. I'll put it in the chat if anybody wants to look at it. And
that was the one that you said had been effective.
Yeah.
We're building on now. Okay.
Yeah.
So Kendall brought up something in the chat that I actually think is interesting about how increasing the mandate for businesses to divert organics can be difficult, especially for small businesses. Just something that sanitation told me about the commercial waste zones pilot that surprised me was they hadn't even. I guess the last time we spoke, I want to say like 2/3 of the businesses in the zone, they knew they were in contracts, but as they're going through this process, they identified about 2,000 businesses so far at that point that didn't have BIC, they weren't registered at all. Like they just don't have waste collection contracts.
I work at a bike store.
Yeah, so what are they doing?
That's us.
Maybe they're putting stuff in the corner bin.
Right.
Maybe they're illegally dumping. Maybe they're sharing a contract with the business next door.
Maybe they take it home. The owners take it home.
Yeah, just all this sort of informal stuff going on.
All of those things.
And I just thought that was really interesting because if that's the scale of it, just in part of one of these districts, it's a way bigger thing than I had ever thought about. And so if you're going to mandate businesses to really do anything, it's just something to consider.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Lacey, I'm glad you brought that up. I heard the number of businesses went from like 7,000 to like 11 or 12,000.
In the zone?
In the zone.
Yeah. Okay.
Interestingly, Los Angeles, when they implemented Recycle LA several years ago, found the same thing. lots of sort of ghost businesses that weren't otherwise accounted for prior to the implementation of the zone.
Just something to think about. How can, I don't know if there's a role for, outreach or anything like that, but,
As I hear it, that's one of about, 10, sort of complicated operational implementation issues that hadn't been fully anticipated, which is why they're doing a pilot zone to sort of figure all that out.
Great.
Just one
So
more
what's the, I'm sorry, what's the implication of there being more businesses in a commercial waste zone?
it's
Well,
just the more
it's
contracts.
staff planning, it's logistical planning, it's a whole bunch of things.
Oh, okay, yeah, just a bigger volume of businesses to deal with than expected.
Yeah, well, and presumably it's an opportunity for some businesses to come in out of the cold or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But also have to pay for services that they weren't paying for before.
Yeah. Right, and how will that be, like, is there a way for them to, I don't know.
I don't know the answer to that.
Because there wasn't really even a question. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of like little specifications to write up.
They can make a deal with their supers, can you mix in our garbage with the building's garbage, and they'll say, sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably what's happening in some cases, right? I know, businesses.
And just one more question, what kind of composting are they doing at Wagner on site?
Free bin,
Oh.
there's tumblers, yeah.
It's Compost Power who spoke at one of our meetings.
They're the ones at Wagner?
Yeah, Domingo.
Right, oh, right.
Yeah.
Who has a really good song on
I
YouTube.
know.
If anyone hasn't heard it.
I know, why don't we share it? I feel like I was supposed to share that around.
Oh, no.
Yeah, right. It's such a great song. Anything? Wait, I feel like we were gonna. Were we stopping something? Or was there something else? Matt, will you come here and we can just talk about the next steps for the how we're gonna deal with the comments and what will happen next?
Yeah, what are we doing with the comments? We get a lot of comments. Many of them will be ignored.
Yeah, so now we're just gonna talk about the report quickly about what the comments, we're getting comments, and how we're gonna approach.
So yeah, we got a lot of comments that are very substantial, and we are sifting through them to see if they comport with the initial intention of the report, which was not to get into the nitty-gritty of exactly how we do this, but we were looking at the overarching idea that it was impossible to do this.
Or that we needed 14 Yankee stadiums or whatever.
We don't need 14 Yankee stadiums. No. So if we don't need 14 Yankee stadiums, we've gotten over one of the major hurdles, right, of potentially doing. We haven't incorporated, for capacity purposes, local composting at community gardens, borough by borough, and the input from the mid-level composters like the Earth Matters, Big Reuse, and Lower East Side, and the Botanic Gardens. So, and some of the new folks that have come in. So we need to do that in phase 1 and 2, 2 and 3. And then from there, we could get into a more detailed discussion of how we do this, more technically set up so that we can discuss, exactly the nitty gritty of implementation if possible. One of the things I do want to point out, and I think it's kind of important, is that this isn't I know that some folks have said this is a hungry hippos game as to see who can grab the most organics for their process, whether it's anaerobic co-digestion or composting. And that's not really the intention. The intention is not a hungry hippos game. It's what is the best and beneficial use of our organics that we collect. Right? Hungry hippos. You ever play that game? It's a little.
Yeah.
No, I never played.
All right. It's like Game of Life, but with hippos.
It's sort of a public health concern. right? Public health,
Well, I mean, the
environmental justice.
point is we certainly want to take the stance that we don't want to add to any harms through trying to do the good things with our, I mean, it's not just about diversion, but it's after we've diverted, are we harming society or helping society? And that's a decision that the public ought to be aware of and need to participate in that decision. Right? I mean, if this were just, should we paint our buses yellow or blue? Who cares, right? Maybe someone will tell us what to do with that. But if we're going to poison the environment with, potentially toxic chemicals by diverting our food scraps, maybe we don't want to do that.
And that takes a lot of education and public outreach.
Not really.
No.
It just takes, it's just about having the conversation with decision makers and folks who would like to weigh in on it, who have an interest, because we breathe air.
Yeah,
and
I think
drink
given
water.
a simple set of facts, people can determine what's going on without a lot of.
Where is this report going? Is this going to DSNY, the city council, or?
It's going to go to city council, I think, and then we can discuss it with DSNY and the DEP as we work out the bugs.
Is there a time limit then when this has to be completed?
I see no, like we need to finish the phase 2 and 3 pieces and then discuss more in detail with some of the other stakeholders in the process, and then decide where to go from there.
We're working on setting up a meeting with DEP, at least for our office, because they had representation at the conference where we presented and sent us some pretty substantive comments. And I think there are some things on which we will agree and some things on which we won't agree, but we definitely want to make sure that we're having that conversation and also making it clear to them that, on the scale of, I don't know if everyone's seen that EPA sort of scale of what to do with food waste, but that we agree that diversion from landfill is better than no diversion from landfill. But as Matt said, how we do it matters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also think there'll be some deep thinking, maybe none of the current administration, you never know, around what is the real outcome of co-digestion with household and human waste. So we'll see. Stay tuned.
Now, can you describe again what phase 2 and phase 3 are?
So phase 2 and phase 3 to look at to keep chipping away at the Yankee Stadium problem, Kendall, and to look at what the capacity is at community gardens and at the mid-level composters like the Earth Matters and the Lower East Side Ecology Centers and Big Reuse. Right?
I think that's not necessarily for this phase of the report, though.
Not for this phase. No.
Just to be clear,
There's two other phases that we want to.
That's future work.
Right.
But what we're focusing on now is incorporating the comments, finalizing the report, and then deciding how we want to distribute it and whatever the processes are for the SWAB to review and
right.
calibrate.
Yeah, we're just, but this is a piece of a puzzle.
Right.
Did you say there is some kind of agreement on the capacity that's required, that we've moved past the Yankee Stadium idea, or no?
I mean, we've shown in the paper, I think, that it's possible to do 180,000 tons in each borough except for Manhattan without having to have 14 Yankee stadiums.
Okay. And
Staten Island is a perfect example of in-vessel composting that makes that kind of thinking possible.
Mm-hmm. But again, it's we didn't talk about local gardens, community gardens, mid-sized compost facilities necessarily.
But we didn't talk about parks because we wrote this before that bill had passed.
Right. So there's a lot more as it evolves, and I think considering that this is the first sort of phase, that there's room for expanding the
Conversation,
purview, the conversation,
capacity, and I think we have to look at community gardens and the mid-level compost processors, and we haven't even considered micro haulers.
Mm-hmm. And the capacity of that is not insignificant. Like it can really.
Well, considering that we're not going to get to 500,000 tons a year until 2050, according to the DSNY, you know, hey,
Right.
plenty of
We
time to
could
work
get
on
there
this.
faster with local processing. I mean, that.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
I talked to someone today who was, I don't know, we'll see.
Oh, really?
No, they're positive, but
Yeah.
negative.
Who are what's the mid-level?
Well, that would be like Earth
Like
Matter,
big
big reuse.
reuse,
Yeah,
yeah.
they could do, you know, they did last 2022, they did about 4,000 tons amongst all, but they were severely curtailed in 2022 and 2023. You know, if they were working full tilt, they could do a lot more.
Curtailed by budget cuts?
Budget cuts, site relocations, you know, locusts, rabbits, frogs.
Yeah.
And Uli mentioned the parks bill is pretty limited. Yeah. So again, things could change over time, but it's a beginning.
So
Yeah, but it's a start.
Yeah, exactly.
that's the beginning of the beginning.
And the conversation is actually happening.
And there seems to be cooperation amongst all the participants at this point, so I'm not that worried about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We have the Brooklyn Borough President to thank profusely for helping this conversation, helping elevate this conversation.
We were very happy to host Ezra.
Yes.
He was a great
Yeah.
intern.
He was very good, very diligent.
You did a lot of very hard work. And
Yeah.
he sacrificed a lot. So
Yeah.
I have a great debt of gratitude.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, does anybody have any updates about anything? Michael was talking about his goings on during our.
Yeah, did anyone go to the NISA recycling conference besides Michael?
Allison and Sharon and Maggie.
Yeah, we went.
Any good stuff to share?
Well, I met with a lot of people that were interested in textiles. And at some point I'd like to have a discussion with the SWAB about combining the textile effort, because you guys don't have a textile committee. Allison, you want to chime in for a bit?
Yeah, well, there are a lot of great people there, like-minded. I got to speak to people about, you know, what equipment is being used where, just to get us throughout the state. I can't even think, but
I had a hard time hearing Allison.
we're going to get recordings of all the sessions. So assuming we get them, I'm happy to share them. There were just a lot of good. There's some I can't remember off the top of my head, but maybe I'll be.
Okay.
Okay.
Makes sense.
There's a nice organic summit in April in Troy, New York. I'm gonna try to go to, because this summit was really, you know, not specific and organic.
Okay. What about you, Kendall? Were you there? Yeah? Okay. All right, good. All right.
Anything else? Anybody? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, do you want to make an announcement about the date of the next meeting?
Oh yeah, the date of the next meeting. I put the wrong date in the, just to see if you guys were paying attention.
Oh, yeah, we are.
And Sherry was obviously the only one. Thanks a lot. I just worked really hard on this. Okay, Monday, the 6th of January will be the next meeting. So please join.
And I saw that Save Our Compost did post the Instagram post about the parks bill.
Oh, good.
So, yeah.
Oh, good. Thanks. Did everybody hear that? Okay.
No.
Save Our Compost. Go ahead.
Posted on Instagram about the parks bill that we were talking about earlier. There's a little info post about it. So, but the summary that Lacey had was good. There's a few more numbers, but yeah.
Well, okay. So also, does anybody have anything else? Anybody out in the land of the virtual?
Hi there. I wanted to see if I could.
Please announce.
Can I make a little announcement about an event that I'm hosting at the Brooklyn Society for Ethical Culture on December the 15th, and it's with our very own Akmos.
I just put the
And
link in the chat.
so thank you. Rhonda's putting the event into the chat. Brooklyn Ethical is no longer on Prospect Park West in its beautiful old building. We sold it, and now we're in a storefront on 4th Avenue and Garfield.
Wow.
But Akmos has got this. I don't know if anybody here got a call from Akmos.
I did.
Who got a call from Akmos?
I did.
I got one too. And it's just like this really great event that he's doing with his life. It's just wonderful. At any rate, we're creating a whole platform on this compliment call-up. And that's going to be on December the 15th at 12:30 at the Brooklyn Society for Ethical Culture. Come, let's give Akmos some love. As he gives us some love too. All right. Lovely to see you all.
Thank you, Vondra. Thanks for the announcement.
I'm still collecting buckets.
Right.
I'm still processing it out at the golf course.
Maybe all of those little businesses that are unearthing, they can go to Vondra.
Yeah, but they have to pay.
Yeah. But they would pay less with you maybe than a big hauler.
And then I can hire.
Exactly.
Which is the main thing, actually, is being able to hire some people.
Yeah, and expand and all that.
Okay, dears, thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, we're a little early. Does anybody have anything else?
This is.
Oh, yeah.
Since I've been out of the loop. So, who does DSNY, are they responsible for reaching out to landlords about when they drop off a brown bin? Because my building is so disorganized. I saw this brown bin, a big one, stuck in this corner behind tons of boxes, and I'm sure my landlady is totally unaware about it. So I was going to call her, but what is the process when they get dropped off, and who is supposed to be? Is anyone going to talk to the landlord?
I mean,
we've
had so many people come and speak about this, but I feel like.
But you're in Brooklyn though, right?
I'm in Brooklyn.
They're not doing outreach in Brooklyn right now, I don't think, because Manhattan, Bronx, Staten Island just did it. So they're like, when they drop off and folks can jump in, it's usually like a flyer or something appears with it. Now I know you can, and there hasn't been any free bin orders from Brooklyn for over a year.
Well, we have a real little one, like
a long time ago.
Year ago, I guess.
Yeah, then
But now they have a huge big one, but it's just stuff.
But you had to order it. They didn't deliver it without it being ordered, right?
Although that's a good question, because now you can order more of them and pay for them. But I don't know, is that just literally like what comes with that, right?
Yeah.
Like, because it in theory could be someone new ordering it that missed the boat.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah,
I would say talk to your building people.
You know, we hear about this over and over again.
I don't think there is an official process. I'm just going to say that.
You can request info from
That's somebody in the building needs to take the bull by the horns and make it happen. If the superintendent or the owner isn't doing it, then a resident has to do it.
I mean, that's what I
You
did.
need a building champion, or it's not going to happen.
To order brown bins.
Just to actually
to make
use
it happen,
them.
to make separation happen in your building.
To take them out, bring it in.
My building just.
You can ask DSNY to come in and do something.
Of course you did.
I just wanted to say, I've heard that DSNY say that if you purchased a bin, you're supposed to get like notice from the company that you ordered from like a week in advance or in advance. If it's just the free bin from DSNY, they just drop it off and say with that.
Right, but that's for delivery. But you would have gotten a bin like a year ago.
Yeah, we did, but
Yeah.
nobody
So-
used it
Just kind
except
of dusted it
4
off.
people in
Yeah.
a building
Yeah.
of 80 people,
Yeah.
including I filled up the whole bin one day. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I have a question about that. Because in
Yes.
my apartment building, they do have a compost bin and people are using it to put their food waste. But there's no clarity about whether you're putting the straight food waste versus putting the waste in plastic, because people are individually bringing the food waste down and putting the plastic bag with the waste in the compost bin.
You just can't use the black.
I just was curious, huh?
You can't use black trash bags, but their guidelines say you can use any other kind of plastic, clear plastic or compostable or paper.
And it can be individual bags.
I think so.
That's what she's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
What do you mean by clear plastic? You mean
Like-
a regular plastic?
For recycling as opposed to black plastic, which you would use for trash.
You can line the brown bin with a clear
But what
plastic
she's asking is,
bag.
can you put? I mean, I
Yes.
imagine that if you couldn't use that,
You
this is-
can.
It doesn't actually say this.
Right.
But I imagine that if you can line it, you can also put one on the inside.
Yes,
Yes.
you can.
Yes.
Everybody
And-
can
and
individually
they
bag
have
their
said
own.
that. I mean,
Yes.
they did say that
What
last
happens-
year
what
when they were
happens if
doing
you're
outreach.
It doesn't say it in their brochure,
yeah,
which I
that
just read
you-
this weekend because I had to write the informative email to my building.
You are allowed to put any plastic bag in there. Would I personally recommend it? No. But is it allowable? Yes, because it goes through sorting and screening and all sorts of things before it goes off to Newtown Creek. So
Yes.
So-
It does.
or-
They don't
Allison
use plastic
just said that anyone can register to attend a free DSNY training / Q&A session, residents, building,
That
and
is also
staff.
true.
That's true.
Yep.
And she gives the link here to it.
Yeah.
What happens if your building has one brown bin and 100 apartments?
I don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean, we had some kind of a training thing that not a lot of people came to, actually. I mean, they did when they started this thing, but it's just a lot of these logistics as this rolls out over time. There are little subtleties of this stuff that.
We garbage groupies know, but not everybody else does.
Well,
Yeah.
we wouldn't have anywhere to do it except in my lobby, and I don't know how to.
And they can also put it out for only
Where do you
one
put your
day.
trash?
What's that?
They can also put it out for only one day. So your building can say, they're gonna pick it up on Wednesday, so we're gonna put it out on Tuesday, and so Tuesday is
Oh,
the
we do
day that
that,
you can
but
put
it's
out.
only like 5 people.
Oh, okay.
out of-
That's just an
That's the issue.
education
Yeah.
I
of your
know.
neighbors,
And that'll
which
happen.
that's not what DSNY does.
Right.
Right.
As we know, they don't.
Yeah.
Right.
They don't do education, do they do enforcement?
They do
Allegedly,
enforcement.
they're
They're
going to.
supposed to
yet.
start,
Not
yeah.
until-
Right, it's
There's
not, you
all
don't get
kind of
fines yet.
I think there are very few inspectors, period, end of sentence.
For education?
So they
Yeah.
do
So
have,
if
they do
DSNY
have
doesn't do
education online.
where do
There
you get
are-
education?
They did have it before.
Online.
There are
Yeah.
things you can sign up for.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
people have to look at it.
Sign up for
Yeah.
it, They're not setting up,
Yeah.
saying,
Well,
"Hey, come
I-
They had big reuse going door to door
Yeah.
for a
But I
while,
have to
except
tell
in
people in
large
my building.
buildings.
Yeah, and then they hired someone else. I don't know.
Yeah. Then there was an
They outsource.
Unnamed, yeah.
There,
bid.
and
No bid.
I
contract.
shouldn't say they don't do any
For all DSM.
outreach and education.
But they
There
did,
are
they just slapped the
resources
budget.
there.
Yeah.
There are resources available.
Their budget is.
It's
Right.
not as much as we would like to see.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I was
and that
surprised.
we know is necessary.
I don't know who
So.
ordered this big
Yeah.
contract.
So we're kind of winding down. Let me just say thank you everybody for a bunch of great meetings this year and a great thoughtful work. Thanks to the legislative committee, all the committees for all the work you're doing and putting in. It's really helpful and it's leading us all to new places. All the work that the committees are doing. And we are gonna probably all go out to the what do you call it, house?
Custom
house. So if anybody wants to take their pajama pants off and put your shoes on and meet us there, you're welcome to.
Take what?
To go to the custom house.
Right.
Or keep your pajama pants on.
Yeah, keep them on. I don't care.
We're not judging. You
Yeah.
can't come to the custom house without your pajamas.
But thanks everyone. We'll see you in the new year.
That's the place we went last.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Yeah. Happy
Okay,
holidays.
same to you. Bye.
Thanks everybody. Bye.
Bye.
So
Just a quick note for anyone in the room to make sure that everyone signed in.
Did everybody sign in?
You have to, I think, go to DSNY to ask for more, or just? Oh, no, the building has to.